Hi YouTube friends, today I'm making some strawberry jam because my jam stash is running quite low. So I've got a lot of strawberries and I'm going to just do a simple jam recipe with you. I'm going to just show you what the equipment I've got at the ready. So I'm going to set it all up, and the jam jars need to go in the oven at 140 degrees centigrade for at least half an hour so it sterilises them after you've washed them thoroughly, of course. So I'll just show you all the equipment I've got stacked up at the moment. So I've got this delicious big pot of strawberries which I have washed. Now I'll take all the greenery off them and probably chop them in half. At the minute there's roughly over 3 kilos of lovely strawberries, and then I've put the jam jars and the lids on a baking tray and they're going in the oven right now, as I said, for about half an hour at least while I prepare the jam. Even if it's longer, it doesn't matter. And then that's what I've got at the moment, my jam. So we've got the grapefruit marmalade that I've done a YouTube video on, and then the bit of plum jam that I've got a YouTube video on, and some rosette jelly that's left over, so there's not a lot. So we need to get on with our jam. So I've got my scales handy, and then we've got this, which I got from Lakeland, which is fabulous, and you just pick up your hot jam jars when you need to move them. And the strawberry jam recipe that I always use, which is a River Cottage recipe. Very, very, very long handled stirring spoon, which is a Kilner brand, and my lovely preserving pan, and a thermometer. And you'll need lots and lots of sugar. So the River Cottage recipe, and I'll just show it you so you've got it and you can stall the video. And that says it makes 4 jam jars, 4 to 5, 1 kilo of strawberries, 500 grams of sugar, 450 grams of jam sugar with active pectin if you want, and 150 ml of lemon juice. Okay, so that's the recipe. So I'm going to cut the greens off the strawberries and prepare. Right guys, so I've got all the sugar and the strawberries in a pan, and we're going to just put that on the heat and let it melt down. This process will take quite a while. Might take about 5 to 10 minutes depending on how high heat is. Be very careful to keep stirring. It's good to invest in these large spoons so you don't burn yourself. Okay, and just keep an eye on it. You don't want the sugar to burn on the bottom of the pan, so just give it a stir every few minutes. And I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. And we've got it melted down. Still, it's getting thinner now. That syrup and sugar's melting down now. It's been about 3 or 4 minutes now. Keep stirring it, as I said before. Make sure it doesn't stick on the bottom. Right, so it's gone a little bit more thinner and runny, as you can see. So all that sugar is melting down again, and it's coming up to a good simmer now and getting quite hot. We've still got quite a long way to go yet, guys. I'll say about another 10 minutes and I'll show you what it's looking like then. Right, it's now coming up. I can see the froth on it. I've put the overhead lighting on, and I don't know if it looks a bit orange on here, but it is sort of pinky and red strawberries on this end, but sorry if the lighting's showing it slightly orangey. Now there's a lot of foam coming up, which shows it's coming up to the boil, and what we want to actually do is when the mixture reaches a full boil, we want to boil it rapidly for about 10 minutes and then we'll test it. And if you've seen my previous videos, you'll see there are several ways to test jam. You can use it the old-fashioned method, the saucer, where you put a saucer in the freezer and make it absolutely really cold, and get a little teaspoon and take out a tiny little bit of your jam, put it on the saucer, put it back into the freezer, and then when you bring it out, and you just put your finger or a spoon through the middle of the jam mixture it keeps that sort of indentation in the middle and it doesn't run back into itself. Or you can use a thermometer, and on a thermometer you generally find that a jam is roughly at the temperature of 104, which I think that equates to about 220 Fahrenheit, but I always look for just over 100 to 104 on my old-fashioned jam thermometer. But I tend to do either the saucer, and I use the thermometer as well often, but you don't need to, just what works for you. Give it a good stir, keep stirring it, get that heat to the full boil on high heat now, and boil it rapidly, and then we'll test it in about 10 minutes. I'll come back and show you. Right guys, so we're bubbling up now, and it's been about 10 minutes, but it's still very watery, so I know that that's not going to set, so I'm going to give it another about 3 or 4 minutes and we'll see if it's any difference. Right guys, it's dropped a little bit, it looks like it's much thicker, so I'm going to do the initial thermometer test. So putting the thermometer into the jam, and let's get this temperature checked now. Don't think we're there 100% yet, but we'll soon see when we get the temperature up. We're looking for 104 on the thermometer. This is round about 100 to 102 presently. Because of the increased volume of fruit, this has taken longer than the 9 minutes out of the book in the recipe, and we're looking at the minute about 25 minutes. So if you're going to do a very, very large volume of fruit, you're going to have to increase that cooking time. Same principle, getting it up to the temperature. That'll be the only change. This will take longer to get up to the 104 if there's a lot more fruit, obviously. So we're on the 100 stage. Okay, so it's not yet done, but I'll do a little saucer test for you, and then you'll be able to see what it looks like. So I've got a very cold saucer. I'm going to put a spoonful on there, and what you should do is remove this jam off the heat while you wait for that to be tested. Personally, I don't think it's ready yet, but if it was and you keep it on the heat, it's still cooking, isn't it? So just leave it just slightly off the heat now. It's cooking anyway, but what we don't want to do is it cook and then it's like rubber. At this stage I think we're alright, but we'll test it, and then you put the jam back on if it's not thick enough, and carry on until the next test. I'd like to show you what it's like when it's not actually done with the freezer saucer method, and then compare that when it is done with the freezer saucer method as well. Right guys, so this has been in a couple of minutes, and you can see without me showing you, there's a little bit of like wrinkling on it, but if you did that it would still run back on itself, and it's just very, very runny. Now that's nice when you want to make some kind of syrup and have it pouring like over ice cream, a sauce like that, but it's not done for jam. Right, so it's back on the heat again guys, and I'm looking for 104. Trying to get that temperature up just that little bit more, so you know it's spot on this time. And you have to keep just checking, don't you? Perfect set is what you're trying to get. We are nearly there. So the jars are in the oven. We'll take those out very shortly. As soon as we get that set and that temperature up, take those out and we'll start to pot up the jam as quickly as possible. Okay, that's looking good. And that's nearly at 105. So I'm going to take that off. Take it off the heat. Get my plate again, come out of the freezer, pop it straight back in as quick as possible. And the kitchen smells gorgeous of the strawberry jam. Lovely, lovely smell. Hope you'll give it a go. Great time to do this when the strawberries are in season in England in June, or wherever you live. When your strawberries are in season, you get them cheaper and you get them ripe and delicious and flavoursome, and it really makes a difference. Oh, make some scones and clotted cream. have a nice cream tea. Happy days. Right, let's check that then and see. Last one now. I think we're going to be on the winner this time. Straight in the freezer again. Right guys, so this is this one. I think we'll be alright now. Right, so we've done our test. It's looking good. It's not flooding. You've still got that line through it, which tells you that it should be a nice set on there. I'm going to start popping the jam into the jars. I just took them out of the oven. So this is where we act quite fast. We get the jam funnel onto the jars and stir your jam in the pan and try and get it as near as possible to the jar if you can. Fill them up. You need to be filling them up to nearly the top, so you need to allow for a little bit of expansion. Try and be mindful to get a mixture of the liquid and the strawberries in each jar. If you spill anything on the edges, you must clean it off because that's what will introduce mould. If you've sterilised your jars correctly in the oven and cleaned them beforehand, you shouldn't have any mould and you should get a good seal. Be very mindful though to get those lids on as quickly as you can. I don't mind the foam. Some people will skim off the jam before they pot up. These funnels are made by Kilner. You may be able to find them from a different company as well, but they make the job so easy. A very wide neck funnel. It costs about £6 in the UK, and to be honest it's worth every penny. I would really recommend them. Got mine from Lakeland. Seen them in the range. Obviously you'll be able to find them online. If you've got a nice local shop that sells a cook shop and you can support them, then that's great as well. If you haven't got a full jar, that's okay. You can half fill that jar and put it in your fridge and use that one up the first. That's what I do. Or you could just put it in something else and pop it in your fridge. Just check all your jams, see if you can top any up, but don't overfill them. It should be nearly at the top but not right at the top. You want a little bit of a gap from the top of the jar to the lid, so it's not sitting on the lid any of the jam. That will probably allow a bit of mould and growth. I've seen people put alcohol like champagne and things in the strawberry jam and Prosecco. Something that's of interest to you. I'm sure you can find the relevant recipes online. I prefer just a nice traditional strawberry jam. So that is all the portions we've got out of that, and that was 2 1/4 kilos. Now we need to make sure those lids are nice and clean. Get yourself a wet piece of kitchen roll, wipe all your top bits. If there's any spillage, wipe it off. You don't want to introduce any mould. There's a little drip on the edge, so it's all clean on the edge. And when those lids go on, there'll be no problem, hopefully with a seal. Okay, and straight on with your lids as quickly as you can. These are very hot as well, your lids, so hopefully they're going to seal straight away. And that heat will contract as soon as you get on the mug. See, look, I've dropped a little bit of jam on there, so make sure you wipe it off. I tend to just use a cloth, hold it at the bottom, and really give it a twist. Get that lid on quickly as possible. Always do more jars than you need. I was very close here, wasn't I? Only having a spare one, only. To pan we've got in there. So there's your strawberry jam, guys. It'll be absolutely delicious, I'm sure. The main thing is to let it seal now and cool down. You may hear some popping in the next few hours as it cools down in the jar. That one will go in the fridge. So what we've got 3, 6, 10 jars of jam. So I've managed to get 10 jars of jam out of that, guys. And hopefully by tomorrow they'll have popped and they'll have sealed successfully. If your lid blows and the top tomorrow it's sort of loose and you can actually press it in and it indents, then it hasn't sealed correctly, and I would advise you then just to pop it in the fridge and then use it up quickly. But all the ones that have actually managed to seal correctly, then you can store them at room temperature, which I always do, and use them as and when you require. Give some to some friends, or give some to people who've been kind and a nice thank you present. So I hope you will make this recipe. As I say, it's really easy, nice and quick. If you can get some nice fresh strawberries in season, your strawberry jam will be beautiful. And have a little look in the supermarket to see if they're selling some strawberries off, you know, reduce, and just buy them all up and make yourself some jam. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you subscribe. I'll be doing more cooking and making and creating videos shortly. Thanks ever so much.